I'm Steve Forbes, and you're watching Traders Nation.
Welcome back. You are tuned in to Traders Nation. My pleasure to have with us here today Taylor Letterman, cryptocurrency analyst and trader. Taylor, welcome to Traders Nation. How are you today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Hey, listen. Hey, for those that don't know what Ethereum is, give us a brief update on what that, what they do and what's going on with that.
Sure. So Ethereum is sort of, we can easily explain it as Bitcoin's like younger brother in the space.
Yeah.
Ethereum actually makes it easier for us to program different applications that are decentralized on top of, much easier than Bitcoin is. We just expanded into this thing called smart contracts, and we see a lot of applications coming out using smart contracts, which is just a coded agreement between you and I, a contractual agreement built in code. So
it's software. What is it, like encrypted software? Like an encrypted software platform that allows folks to make transactions back and forth in a secure environment, something like that, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we had a smart contract, we're using Ethereum, and I was paying rent, then we can have certain situations set up to where if I didn't pay rent, you lock my door and I can't access my apartment or so on.
Oh, is that
and so those contracts are built into place. And the transaction is just I'm sending you money or Ethereum, and then whether it works or not, and is the amount you ask for, then some other action can be taken place.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. So it's a little bit more than a payment transaction process, right? When you're saying that if I don't make a payment to, let's say, my landlord, which accepts this, right, accepts some form of payment through this medium, that they can actually lock me out. Is that what you're saying? I mean, you can really is it? Let me ask you this. So is it not only that, but is it the ability to really? Is there any limits to this? Meaning, certainly got to be maybe some legal, but is there any limits to what this type of software can do for folks today and into the future?
Yeah, there is no limit, and some Ethereum itself is, if we compare it to kind of oil.
Yeah.
Back to bringing it to like a trading example, is I'm buying Ethereum because that's how these contracts run. That's the computing power that I'm paying for to run some action or some software on the Ethereum network.
Right.
So the same way you buy oil, and you can buy that with the expectation that in the future the price of oil will go up, and then airlines and so on will need it. Yeah. So I'm going to go and buy some now in our futures.
Right.
In that case, so we do the same thing with Ethereum. I buy Ethereum expecting the use cases and for Ethereum to increase over time, and then people needing to utilize Ethereum to pay for the transactions on the network. So every little transaction you pay with Ethereum.
That's pretty wild. All right, so let's talk about this because the BTC futures started in December, okay? How's this going to impact the crypto market? How do you feel about that?
So there's both pros and cons. The positive connotation being it's bringing more traditional retail investors into the space.
Yeah.
That's kind of what held the space back, is not having, it's somewhat difficult to understand, and it's very volatile, so it's harder for retail investors and traditional investors to kind of get involved. So it opens that door a little wider for those folks.
Do you think...
On the other side...
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
On the other side, it does kind of have some negative connotations such that there's more manipulation. So buying futures, and then if I hold a bunch of Bitcoin, I can sell that Bitcoin at the same time, shorting the futures contract, and then vice versa, and really manipulate the market if I have enough size.
Right, and you must have been you took the words right out of my mouth. You must have been in my head, because I'm thinking the retail investors, because I think there's a lot more education that needs to go on when it comes around cryptocurrency. And the crypto market in general when it comes to retail investors. I don't think they're educated enough about the space to not only understand it, but you mentioned it's something here and touched on briefly, was to trust it, right? They got to be able to trust that market. And I don't know if they can necessarily trust that market if they don't understand that market, right? What are your thoughts?
Right. Yeah, and it's very difficult transitioning, and that's a lot of the clients I work with.
Yeah,
they come from a traditional background, so there's a lot of education that has to occur.
Yeah,
but it's still charts, and still there's fundamental analysis, there's technical analysis involved in the investment approach, but there's a lot more to do and understand if you don't have any technical knowledge or background prior to entering the space.
Right. All right. So how much volume is actually derived from the UK-based crypto futures products, since we're on this topic. Okay,
Um,
and even in comparable, how does it vary with trading on the CME or the CBOE?
I think there's going to be currently. Of course, the UK product only started about a month ago, a little bit more than that. So it hasn't been live for long. Whereas the Bitcoin contracts have actually been live a bit longer.
Yeah.
I think, and of course I don't trade in the UK through their futures contracts there on Ethereum, but the volume isn't substantial enough to really impact the market. Ethereum is also not traded in terms of the mass amount of market cap that Bitcoin has. Mm-hmm. It lies a bit below that, whereas Bitcoin's market cap makes up over 104 billion, whereas Ethereum is less than half that.
Yeah. Ethereum, what's with their future launch at this point? What's going on with them? Do they have that out into the market? Taylor?
So the CME released an index, sort of calculating spot price there for Ethereum, back in May. Okay. So, and then recently, the SEC came out and sort of stated that Ethereum isn't going to be considered a security, which I think really gave way to CME actually getting some legs and launching a CME or futures product for Ethereum.
Sure.
So we may see that over the coming months, probably before fall.
Yeah. Is the government, are they scrambling to try to figure out what cryptocurrency is about? I mean, I don't think they're as fast as the market's moving to get cryptocurrency and companies out there that are in that space to the market, whether it's the stock market or to market in general, right, as a product. Is the government having a hard time keeping up with that? And do you find? Yeah. I'm hearing that they're scrambling to try to figure out what they need to do, if anything, and certainly they always feel they have to. What are your thoughts on the government side? Yeah,
I do think I don't know how much they're actually scrambling, but they are fortunately taking their time making a decision.
Sure.
Both fortunately for the crypto space, but also unfortunately for like investors waiting for that clarity to enter the market.
I see.
So I think they're taking their time, educating themselves on it. There's some hearings back in late winter around their sort of expectation for regulations. Mm-hmm. And just listening to the hearing, you can tell they were very uneducated on the space and really didn't know what to go on with it. And media spinning that Bitcoin is used for just mainly drugs and money laundering, kind of putting negative kind of perception on it.
Yeah, all that good stuff. Well, I have to say, for once, the government is in good company, because if they don't completely understand it, they shouldn't be embarrassed by that at this point, because I think a lot of people don't completely understand. I think we're all trying to get our heads around it. And there's so many. The problem with it is there's so many tentacles to what this is all about, and the implications and where it can go. And maybe their approach is slow and easy. Maybe that's prudent for the government at this point. I don't know if we really want them to make snap, knee-jerk decisions on how this thing's going to unfold. And maybe if they spend the time to educate themselves on it, maybe that's good for the market and good for the people in this space. All right. Where do you?
I think,
yeah. Go ahead.
I think the best thing is if they take their time and understand it, then they won't stifle innovation. So actually, we need regulation, but we don't want to stifle innovation.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Because this is tomorrow. I mean, this really is the future, all right? Speaking about that, blockchain, where do you see the technology, not only today, but tomorrow? We got probably about a minute.
I think, just along with the regulations, I think there's a lot to kind of weed out in the space.
Yeah.
We need to get the manipulation. We need to get the trash products kind of out of the space.
Yeah.
And then education. So once those kind of start reaching that tipping point where we're actually putting some traction under the space, and I think kind of the world is the oyster. Any financial transaction that occurs.
I think it's a good plan. We're out of time. Where can we find you quickly?
Simplertrading.com. Head over there. We have plenty of information.
Head on over there today. We'll be right back.